Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog at stampwithelaine.com. Today's project is this fancy fold card with a hidden message. It isn't until you open it and look behind that you can see a message there. And this is a place where you can address the recipient, and on the other side you can say who it's from. This fold is trending at the moment. It was from a lady called Susan. I can't remember her surname, but she's an American demonstrator, and she called this a seagull fold because these are like wings and it flaps like a bird flying. Folds flat so it can be put in an envelope. And this is the second of the elegant border dies that I'm featuring. And the elegant border dies are an online exclusive. These are the border dies, and this is the one I've used today. I used 2 embossing folders. This one is the Eucalyptus 3D embossing folder. It comes in a pair, and this is the floral one. And this is from the Basics 3D embossing folders, which is also an online exclusive, and this is the hatched pattern. There's also a polka dot and a floral one. I'm also using the Dainty Delight bundle. I like the sentiments on this, and it's small enough to fit inside the card. These are the dies, and I'm going to be using this image here, so I will need this die. These are all extras. This one, these stems, these are the dies that go with the stamped images, but these are all the extras. So you've got flower centres, daisies, little individual die cut and embossed flowers, and this sprig of leaves. On my prototype I stamped this, and then on this side I actually stamped it on a scrap of paper and then die cut it, and I think I prefer this bit here rather than this bit, but if you don't have the dies, you know, you can do that. The inks I'm using are Tuxedo Black Memento ink and Orchid Oasis. You also need an uninked white stamping pad and the Whisper White refill. The stamping blends I'm using are Orchid Oasis, Mint Macaron, and from the Subtle Stamp and Write markers I'm using So Saffron. So now let's run through the cardstock you need. 2 pieces of basic white, and I've cut these at 4 1/4 by 8 1/4. In metric, that's 10.5 by 20.5 centimeters. Then you want to score it at 2 1/4, 4 and 6 1/4 on both pieces. Okay, and in metric that will be 5.5 centimeters, 10 centimeters and 15.5 centimeters. The first score is a valley fold. A valley fold is when it looks like a valley like this, and this is a mountain fold when it peaks like this, and the next one is also a mountain fold. Okay, and you do the same for this. So the wider panel is a mountain fold. This is 2 1/4 inches, this is 2 1/4 inches, but these are, I think they're about 2 inches. No, this is 1 3/4 and this is 2 inches. So you want the wider panel as a valley fold, and the next 2 as mountain folds. We'll set that aside for the minute and run through the other pieces of cardstock you need. You need one in the coloured cardstock and one in basic white. So I'm using Orchid Oasis, and both these measure 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. That's 10.5 by 10.5 centimetres. This is the bit that you will glue to the wings, and this bit you die cut with the elegant border dies before you emboss it. And for the end panels, which is the wider sections of your wing, you need 2 pieces in the coloured cardstock, which measures 2 inches by 4 inches, and in metric that will be 5 centimetres by 10 centimetres. And both these pieces need embossing with the Basics 3D embossing folder. I'll pop those in there so I don't lose them. You'll also need 2 pieces of basic white for the inside of your wings, and this is to stamp your sentiment on here and here. So this is your first panel, this is your second panel, this is your third panel, the inside panel. Now I'm using the 2022 to 2024 in colour 6x6 DSP pack, and you need 2 pieces. This is narrower, this is for the middle panel, and these have been cut at 1.5 by 4 inches, and in metric that's 4 centimetres by 10 centimetres. I'm going to glue this to the middle panel because it will be easier to have all the layers glued down than once you've assembled your wings. So it's the middle panel, that's your wide, that's the middle panel. Now I'm going to bring in my plates and place my embossing folder with the logo side face down, so I can line up my cardstock against the line at the base of the embossing folder. Shut that, place my grey plate on top, which is platform 4, and then run it through the machine. So there are my embossed pieces, and I'm going to glue that to the outer panels. Now be careful which side you're attaching the glue to. The deboss side is the reverse, and the raised bits are the top. So I shall glue that onto my outside panels. Now I want to stamp my sentiment, and on this one, on the left wing, I'm going to stamp "Sending Love for the Season." And on the right side I stamp "The Best Is Yet to Come." Now I'm going to glue this piece to this panel here, and this piece to the right side. Now if you decide that you are going to stamp directly onto the cardstock, now is the time to do it. So you stamp on both, but I think I prefer die cut piece. So I will do that on a piece of scrap white cardstock and then attach it afterwards. So next we will join these together. Okay, so these flaps are at the top. So the idea is that these two will be butted against each other like that, and this will be glued on top. So the best way to do that is apply adhesive to this portion here. and you want to stay clear of the edges because you don't want the glue to seep. Let's zoom in. Where you've glued this card here, alright, you can use that as a guide to marry up your cardstock so it doesn't show. And there's 1/8 of an inch. You need to be mindful that your top and bottom piece matches. Alright, now flip it over so that side is along here. So put adhesive on this bit here again, and now you flip the card over. Make sure they're both facing the same way, okay? So that's upside down, so your writing is upside down, so this has to be upside down as well. And then make sure that that's buttered up to this fold line here, and that these edges cover up the cardstock. So there's your wings. Okay, set that aside while we tackle stamping the flowers and colouring them in. Now I'm going to do some colouring, so I'm going to colour the stems and the leaves in the darker mint macaron. The images are so small there's no point in using any shading, and the same with the Orchid Oasis. I'm going to use the Stampin' Write marker to colour in the centre of the flowers first. And I'm using the bullet end. There's a brush end with a thicker line and a bullet end with a thinner line. So I'm using the bullet end because then I've got more control. Change pens. Now I've got some die cutting to do. So the same sandwich, platform 1, platform 2, base platform 3, cardstock followed by die with the cutting edge face down, and a second platform 3, and I'm ready to run it through the machine. So I'll do that off camera. So there are my die cut flowers. Now we want to do the border. With your border dies, you have to remember that if it's wide like that, you should run it through the machine this way. So I'm going to pop that. Actually, I'll put this on the grid paper so I can make sure it's straight. I'll draw a line so I can see the grid paper better. This is 4 1/4, so I want that 2 1/8. I did talk about these dies in my Top Tuesday slot, but just to recap, now you can tell where there's a continuous line of a raised edge on the die, that is actually the side that cuts. But as an aide-memoire, it's best to mark your die pointing that way so you know that this is the inside and that's the outside. So I'm going to line up the point, this pointy bit, with the 2 1/8 inch mark. Make sure that that's straight because I can tell from this mark I've made on the grid paper. And I'm going to adhere the die to the plate, and just to be on the safe side, also do that. Now I can put the whole thing onto my platform. Platform 1, thin die adapter platform 2, platform 3, and a second platform 3, and I'll run that through the machine. Now bring in the eucalyptus folder, 3D embossing folder. That's the top of the card, so it should go around this way, the logo side, and then put it on my embossing sandwich. And I know Stampin' Up says to have the folded side as the leading edge on your platform, but I don't want the embossing folder, the plate, to leave a mark on the cardstock. Oh bother, that's moved. So what I'm going to do is pop that on like so that the plate is partially on the cardstock and partially off. I want it to emboss all of it, but I don't want to leave a mark. So that's how I do it. Now I'm going to run my craft ink pad across the top. So before I glue my top down, I'm just going to put some glue on the back of this floral Dainty Delight piece and stick it on this panel. And then on this side, do the same. Now I've already gone through that portion there with the fine tip glue pen. Now I think I left a wide border on this one, and then just glue this on top, making sure that it's all covered and nothing showing on the reverse. So there you go, there's your seagull fold. Voila, that's the card finished, and there's your hidden message panels. I haven't put a sentiment on here because that's quite generic, and so it could be an anniversary or a birthday, so I'm going to leave it blank and add my sentiment on later when the need arises. So I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. Thanks for watching. All the links to the supplies are below this video in the show more section. You can also find me on Pinterest, Facebook or Instagram. The link to all the measurements and everything is over on my blog, and there's a link to that too. Do give me a thumbs up if you like this project, and thanks for watching. Bye.